Well, you know, the nonprofits I work with always say, we have limited time, we don't have enough staff, we don't have enough money, and we can't do all that you say. And I agree, they probably can't do all that, even I can't do all that I say. So where you focus is on your biggest donors who are going to give over the longest term, okay? That's where you put, in fact, there's a little diagram, a little pyramid we sometimes draw in fundraising, and it's an observation of healthy organizations. In a healthy organization, 60% of the money comes from 10% of the donors. 20% of the money comes from 20% of the donors. And 20% of the money comes from 70% of the donors. The most donors give the least money because they're new donors, they've just come in, they give through events. Organizations make a big mistake because they focus all their time on all their donors. You want to focus 60% of your time on 10% of your donors. Those are your long-term major donors. You start there. And if you only have a certain amount of time and all you ever did was focus on those, you would probably be okay. It's not great. But then you also really want to focus a fair amount of time, so you focus your time on those donors. You also want to focus a lot of time on your team of people doing fundraising, because what you don't want is to be in charge of all fundraising. So I almost rather people focus a lot of time on getting people into fundraising so that all the donors are taken care of. But obviously the longest term donors who give the biggest gift are your most important donors. Well, one of the things that we do in fundraising, without meaning to, is we do this thing called leaving money on the table. And one of the ways that works is we'll have somebody gives us $50 a year for 3, 4, 5, 7 years. And we never go to them and say, how about $100? How about $200? And maybe when they started giving $50, that was a lot of money to them. Or maybe, you know, and now they're much better off. And so they tell their friends, that's my favorite group, and so on. So for example, what I like to do is I like to take the longest term donors, the people who've given the longest period of time, the biggest gifts, print out all those names in little batches of 25 or 50 names at a time, show it to the board members, and say, when you see that name on that list, and you see that giving history, does it make sense relative to what you know about what this person gives elsewhere, and relative to what you know about how much the person loves our group? Okay? So let's say some person, Mary Murphy, she says, you're my favorite group. I love your group the best. But then when I see that she gives $50 a year to that group, which is her favorite group, but she gives $500 a year to another group, I think, well, what's wrong here? Something's wrong here. And chances are that no one has ever put the question to Mary. How much does our group really mean to you? Is $50 the appropriate expression? Now, we can't say it quite like that. It's too bold. But we can just say to her, Mary, do you think you could consider going to $50 a month? Mary, do you think you could consider going to $200? And it sparks in her, oh, you're right, I'm not giving the right amount relative to how much I care about this group.